I saw a video recently where someone began to enumerate their what they were going to do, what their agenda is. My agenda is it's a little overwhelming because I'm going to go against every grain that my body possesses, that my mind possesses. I am going to say out loud and speak what is going to sound like, and as you could tell by my scribbles, what looks like gibberish and garbage, because I have to give you a warning. And every part of my body that resists, um, that has fear right now, fear with respect to humiliation and shame and social pressure, is I'm trying to overcome that. And it's so funny that the stuff I have to tell you, the stuff I desire to tell you, the thing that keeps me and has kept me from telling you and many people is because of social pressure. Because I'm going to go against the grain, and I have I think a pretty big obligation, is I have to try to explain to you something pretty overwhelming. It's overwhelming to me. And so what I'll do is I'm just gonna follow my one of my favorite YouTubers, and this is definitely in the spirit of him, um, of Dr. John Campbell. So I'm gonna follow the way that Dr. John Campbell did his videos, and I'm going to try to make things really simple to understand if I write them down. The reason that you see my writing doesn't make a lot of sense is because I do a lot of writing in cursive, and so why I do this is um, it's a it's a mental health exercise for me to write, um, because I have extreme perfectionism. I found that when I'm typing on computers, there's never a way for it to be perfect enough. And so when I write things down, it's easy for me to write things down. And if I don't like it, I just keep writing, or I write adjacent to it, right next to it. So that's why I write on this. And what's great is I have lots of notes. I like to draw things like this, and it's so funny. Like I feel like I feel like, you see, you unearth a crazy person, and you see all their journal entries and all their writings and all the symbolism, and none of this stuff makes sense out of context. So maybe if I explain it to you, you won't think I'm crazy. And if I publish this, then maybe I'll find some more crazy people like you guys that can see what I'm trying to do and know that I'm trying to do this for uh, because I feel compelled to, and because I think I need to. Imagine um, that I'm doing this from a place of from a good heart, and I'm doing this because the first thing here is lives are at stake, and then the next thing here is that your life is at stake. And why do I say lives are at stake and your life is at stake? And I mean this, you know, I put these next to each other. The lives are at stake. And then I immediately put after that, your life is at stake. Because if I was just to have lives are at stake, then I don't think you would really care. And not an accusation. It's just a pattern recognition. Because you, like me, we drive around and we see people on the side of the road starving. We live in a world where there are countries that we bomb. We willingly eat food that kills us. We have abundant food, abundant energy, and there are still people starving. We'll spend money on missiles and battleships and forget that people are more important than those things. We'll drop bombs on other countries. So the human species has not historically been, I mean, we're generous. We have potential to be good. But if I say lives are at stake, there are other issues right now that are more practical than what I'm about to tell you, that lives are at stake. And if you're not working on those things, if you're not supporting those things, and then I all of a sudden I enter your video screen and I say, well, look, here's something else that's important that you should probably care about, and lives are at stake. You'll say, okay, well, I didn't care about these other things that lives are at stake. Why would I care about this thing lives are at stake? And maybe you do care about other things that lives are at stake in. And because maybe you volunteer, maybe you just care. Um, and you'll look at this and you say, well, that's not my zone. I already take care of something else. So I do my one good thing. I shouldn't need to care about more than one good thing. Or you may say, oh, this is of a topic that I find interesting. So because it's a topic I find interesting, I'm going to entertain this conversation and I'm going to try to care about it a little bit. And but the reason I say your life is at stake is because if I can convince you that your life is at stake, but maybe not panic you because we can do something about this, or at least I could tell you that there's a pothole up the road, and the pothole is hidden by some branches. You don't immediately see it. But if I show this to you, then when you come up to that curve in the road, you'll notice step to the right because I told you there was a pothole there. So I'm going to say that your life is at stake. Maybe I'll soften it and say there's a pothole ahead. A pothole is a very dangerous pothole ahead. So I'm going to shift around some notes. And for me, this is just, we may not do anything too crazy with this. I mean, I've literally just set this up. I don't know. Maybe I should put it a little bit higher, like John does, so you could see it. I don't know. Well, we're gonna let perfectionism strike again. Another video. So I want to talk about what is safe first. So this is with respect to AI safety and the idea that I'm going to try to convince you that it isn't AI necessarily that is unsafe. That you need to put a mirror in front of yourself and you need to realize that you are the animate object. You are the being that will use a tool that may create an unsafe circumstance. Now imagine, or I guess there's a sort of the punchline, is safety right now. I think if I could just loosely define this, is within the context of the physical world, right? And we'll get there, okay? But safety, as in when you're born, when you leave your mother's womb, you enter into an environment. You don't enter into nothingness. You enter into an environment that has environmental rules like gravity. You've got air. You touch things. You touch grass. Now, in this environment, to live, you have to eat and you have to sleep. Like those are just the basics. To eat and to sleep safely, we've done things like create, or there are things that we are born with, like um, patterns, behaviors. We go into families, we go into tribes. We live in an environment. So that environment has environmental requirements, like you eat and you sleep. So if when I say safe, I say, what are things that we do that keep us one day ahead of another inside of the environment? So safe would be what are things that keep you going to the next day? So For example, don't fall into potholes or don't eat poison. Right? So I'm not suggesting, and I feel like where a lot of the conversation gets missed with artificial intelligence safety is that we're trying to, and I think there are some good requirements here. We're trying to make sure that the AI systems you don't prompt engineer a nuclear device, but it isn't that the problem isn't that those prompts or that those large language models possess the knowledge of how to do these things. It's that the animal, the tool user, are very clever and oftentimes motivated by reason to know that your life is at stake. So um, let me get back on track for a second. There's so much doubt. There's literally so much doubt here. Okay, push through, push through the doubt, Drew. So I think the AI safety conversation gets it doesn't have it's not grounded, I think, in practical truth. Because I think the issue is that how do you give agency to the masses that have been taught utility? So from birth, just in the Western sense, in a commercial sense, you've been taught to be useful. You were given skills to perform tasks that go above staying safe and safety. Like, so for example, wisdom would tell you, don't go swinging a stick at a beehive. You know, your mom or your dad probably taught you that, and that was an easy lesson to learn because there was pain involved. It was an emotion, an animal emotion tells you to not do that. So how do I, and how do you know how to possess the agency that artificial intelligence creates when you were never taught wisdom related to being within mechanistic capital systems? What? Okay. So I'm going to dance around this idea a little bit because it's confusing and my notes don't talk about this yet. But you are very good at gaining and seeking gain, and that's biological and that's training. You know how to cleverly exist in this world, to manifold, to manipulate systems. The system you've been manipulating your entire life has been other people in addition to tools. You know how to use a screwdriver. It's intuitive. It's you pick it up, you turn it. This whole time you've been learning how to interact with other people. You know how to have a conversation to get what you want. You know how to ask for something, ask for things you want. You know how to say the things you want, but you do these things, and we've been raised to do these things towards an end. And that end has more often than not been competitiveness, to competitively and cleverly manufacture language to achieve a desired outcome and a goal. That's dialogue, that's discourse, etc. So you're very good at that. I'm very good at that. Now, because you know how to ask questions to get what you want, the problem with AI safety is that you have billions of people that want things, that want different things. Now, imagine that you, a good person, I would assume, maybe you want to make the world a better place. Maybe you want to buy a house, or maybe you want to buy a car. Okay. You want large language model. I want to buy a house. Okay, there are some instructions. Large language model. I want to do something terrible or deceptive. Okay, now it knows that you are very clever and want to gain a system to achieve a goal that you have. So now it has to determine your wants and your desires for you. So this isn't even about AI safety in that regard. Okay, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tell you that out of the exchange between you and AI is that the unsafe part is not the AI. The unsafe part is you. It is that you are clever and that you desire. Now, as I said before, if I was to tell you that lives are at stake because you have othered everyone else other than yourself, you have an ego that says this is me, and your biology tells you and your psyche tells you that you want to exist, so you're going to preserve yourself, but that supersedes other people, right? So your so if I tell you that your life's at stake, maybe I can startle some part of your brain to to get you to pay attention to this. So back on track. Where am I going? I'm trying to say you on the other end of the screen, you are the unsafe part that the masses, or I'm sorry, you and then the mass are the unsafe part that the system that is designed is trying to keep from leveraging it unsafely. Now, let me take this a little bit further. So now that I've created a separation between what you and the device are. There's the tool, there's the tool user. Okay? Tool, AI, tool user, you. So what I want to do is I want to talk about now some of the interesting attributes of a tool user and a tool. Now, let's just imagine I like anthropology, I like history, I like studying other cultures and seeing how people live other than me. Again, this idea of you and ethnocentrism, which I think is it's a biological feature, is what I'll say here is let me draw a little bit. Okay, so you've got you, but you came from parents. Maybe you've got some sisters and brothers. Okay, so right off the bat, you've got people you trust. It's just you're born with it. If you've got good parents that don't have their own trauma and abuse you, you've got a unit. This is powerful because this is love. Right? This has the supreme emotion that surpasses all understanding right here. Okay. Now, you, believe it or not, live with other people. Okay. So now you live in a society. Now, what's probably good to understand is, and I'll say it like this is a fun way to look at it. Lines exist and time exists. I love it. We're going to get deep on this. If there's a direction and there's order, well, there's obviously going to be one before the other. So we exist in a reality where things go in order. So order exists. So in a family, it's probably fair to say that order exists if it's natural. So parents override children. Children fight for order. They fight for attention and time. So let's just scale that up a little bit. You get people that can cooperate if they live in a society or a culture that cooperation is the way they're taught, because we're very trainable. We go to school to be trained. We're animals. We have behaviors that are trained. We have patterns that are trained. We have cognition that is trained. We can train our fingers and our hands to do things. We are trainable. You are trainable. You can be trained. So this is all controllable. Just so you know, everything I'm saying is controllable. So now that we know that you're trained and trainable, you live in a society, and we live in a society that we cooperate because we live in a high trust society in the West, or in some cities in the West, we live in a high trust area. So you can more or less trust that your neighbor is not going to break into you. And if you don't, then you'll want to leave, or you'll try to leave. Now, if you zoom out, you add a bunch of families. You now get a community, right? And then you add enough families, and you add enough communities, and all of a sudden you get nations and states, etc. So no surprising, we organize each other based off of hierarchies. What does this have to do with anything? I'm trying to tell you that there's an attribute to your existence. There is a plane of attributes that subtly or not subtly control how you interact with other people. It's your training. You started doing that when you went to preschool and school, when you went on sports teams. Now, this is not the video I'm going to use to discuss this, but there are some false rings here that relate to fake circles, and those are media driven. But if there is a line that connects you to society, then the line itself has attributes. So there are attributes related to the nature of your relationship with society. So one of those attributes is that not everyone's a leader. Not everyone possesses the same skills. We're all different. Not everyone desires the same things. We're all different. But as a result, and unfortunately, because we live in a society that needs order, order has hierarchy, especially if we're going somewhere. Typically, that's age. In some circumstances, it's gender, seniority, skill. Like there is an order to us and to people. So I don't know the societal sociological principle here, but I'm going to say that imagine that you've got a group of people in a crowd. They're all sort of form a line. I think getting in line is a pretty intuitive action. Especially if we're going towards something, it's pretty intuitive. That's why we say we'll follow the leader, right? We'll follow the leader. We're what is the word? Mimetic. We mimic people. We mimic things. So we will follow the leader. Now, why do I say that following is a psychology that we possess in a society, in a structured order? How does any of this? And I'm trying to remember where I'm going with this and why I brought this up. I do this to base level some attributes. Maybe I'm doing this so that you don't feel, to let you know that you exist somewhere, so that when I say the next few things, you don't become too startled. Okay. So, not fun. This is overwhelming to talk about. So, where did I leave off? Well, you see this is different now. So I got some coffee, and let's see. Let me find my notes. What I just left off. I forgot where. I'll splice this thing together. Hopefully it'll make sense, or it won't. So the point I was trying to make with framing society and framing family units is to tell you so that you know that there are forces and there is psychology and there are systems that are at play that are subtle and you don't see them. And that's the point behind convenience, is that you don't see what makes it convenient. Now, where does this have to go with AI? So if there are systems that control you that you do not participate in, but you are a part of, if you lead, if you follow and you don't lead, if you follow orders because of utility training, not critical thinking or education, the next part is going to be startling. Okay. So imagine a world where you put on a headset, a VR headset, and because you want to get into a holodeck, or maybe you put a neural link in your brain. And with the vision, the idea is that you could put your brain, when I say put your brain, is that you could disembody yourself from your flesh, your blood, from your tears, so that you cognitively disassociate from the physical body you're in, and you see an alternate reality. Ready Player One, The Matrix, convenient television shows or programs or movies, both. Now, there was the Turing test that came out, decades ago, that said, what did the Turing test say? I don't want to butcher this. Turing test. Let's see. The Turing test, originally called the Imitation Game by Alan Turing in 1949, the test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to that of a human. Okay, so we all of a sudden just passed the Turing test. I postulate a new test, and I call it "Do Not Glimpse AI." If literally the pinnacle of a milestone we created as humankind 60, 70 years ago was, could we be tricked by an AI? Could we believe that it was human? If you've had a phone call, or if you called into a call center, or if you've seen these funny videos, we're there. Here is a new test. What would happen if there was an artificial intelligence alternate reality that connected both cognitively to your brain through vision systems or through transplants or through caps, whatever the affordance is, it doesn't matter. But the intention of not just cognitively deceiving you with words, because that's how we're most often deceived, is through words, but visually, what you saw appeared to you to be real as remember the way you feel when you saw a high definition TV for the first time, or when you go into movie theaters these days and they just feel so real. What happens when you put on one of these headsets and then they connect it, because we're going to get there, where the physical aspects of it, the sensors that send electrodes to your brain that say, oh, you touched. What happens when, and this is the theory, what's what I posit, it's the test, a system so convincing that it convinced you that you left. Imagine putting on a headset and thinking you took it off. That is the ultimate, that's ultimately where we're going to go, because we will want We will want to do that. You will want to do that. Maybe not you, your kids, your grandkids. They'll come into a world, they'll be born into a world that has so much. What do we have? We have flowers, trees. We have so many things that we see with our eyes. We see them. We live by sight. Most of us, for those that see, we live by sight. Okay. I have an adjacent philosophical thought. And this part's definitely not going to make sense, but I'm going to try to pickle around it if what I just told you wasn't overwhelming enough. But there's a couple of parts to a system. Right? There's the frame, there's the web, there's the connections, points. Maybe the most extreme version of a system is its extremes, right? You've got a line, go this way, right? We have order if the line is going a direction or if there's primacy with one or the other. Okay. Now, in the most extreme sense, we have nothing if we have infinity. Literally the most extreme things in the world. What is the degree of separation between nothing and infinity? What is that? Given that these were both numbers, or not, they're ideas that represent numbers, especially if you embody them in this world. Nothing in this world is nothing, but it doesn't exist. It's not a number, it's a no thing. What is infinity in this right here? It's a planet, a solar system, and a what? 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 Okay. So we live somewhere in between no thing and everything that is infinite. Okay. So that's like the biggest extreme you get in my mind. It's as big as it gets. Okay. Now, if your brain, which has so much potential, what do you think your brain is going to want in this theoretical, hypothetical world that we put together? I mean, the metaverse, the altverse, the Ready Player One verse, the Matrix, like whatever you end up putting your brain in, what is it that you're going to want in there? Are you going to want no thing? Or are you going to want infinite everything? Now, in this brain verse, where you put your brain inside glasses like that, and you're happy like this, right? Because this world will be really hard, because this world, it's hard to sleep and eat safely because of social confines and war. And you don't get to do your lust in here. I'm sorry, you don't get to do your free lust in here. You have to work out here with your arms and your legs. You have to sweat. In here, you get to see anything you want to see. Any depraved thing you want to do, you can do. Because you can imagine it, because boop. AIs don't need to be connected to computer systems anymore. You could have a sufficiently intelligent AI that sits on what will ultimately be just an independent visor or a thumb drive. And you could plug your brain in to any reality you'd like to plug it into. Literally, you will look at a mirror of your own reflection. If this satisfies you. You'll look young forever. You'll have friends that you've never thought you had. You'll have family. You'll pay $19.99 a month for a subscription to see your lost child. You'll fly. You'll do anything you want to do while your body here rots, because you'll want to live here. You'll want to live in the infinite. But then what happens if this infinite breaks? I mean, you're already deceivable. Self-deception. I mean, we lie to ourselves all the time. So now imagine, and this is the point I'm trying to make right here. Do not glimpse AI. Don't do it. Don't put your headset, don't put your head inside of an alt reality visor. Don't do it. Because what happens, and this is where it's even better, there's a book out there that says something to the effect of, you live by faith, not by sight. Now, what that statement is doing is creating contrast. Okay. You don't do this. So you do this. Okay. Because that's how you say that this exists, is by creating contrast, because we live in a world of contrast. We live in a world of texture. We can deduce. We can assume. We can say if it's not one, it's the other. So it's easy to say that this is what you want because this isn't what you want. But this isn't what you want isn't anchorable. This is something that you do. So because you do this, you see, you live by sight, you know how to create a concept, formulate the contrast that is faith. To have faith is to say, well, I don't see it, so I trust it. Okay. If you exit this environment where you distrust your sight, all of your senses, sight being a sense, if you distrust your senses, then you'll have no contrast to faith. That would be quite a deception, wouldn't it? To go around not knowing if you were really in reality. You could be in reality and you could lose faith. You could not trust the senses you're in. That's called depersonalization, derealization disorder. You should probably check it out because there is a psychological backing for what I'm saying to you. So we could all go into a mass psychosis that we put our brains. I mean, we do this already with TVs, right? We do this already with TVs. We'll sit there, we'll watch TV, and we'll zone out, and we'll all receive the same laughs and jokes and humor and programming. And so we're already pretty disconnected. That's why the joke is touch grass. So that's why I took a break. I feel blessed enough to be able to tell this to you now, is that you should never glimpse AI. Don't create a circumstance that you can't detect what's real or not. Don't create a circumstance that you lose the contrast with faith because you have sight. God gave us sight. Don't lose that contrast. So, and don't fall victim to DPDR. And if you do suffer from DPDR, there are lots of resources on YouTube to help you walk through that. And I encourage you to look at those. So, my goal for you, and this is the most depressing video you'll probably watch today. So, this is just a giant pothole. Look right here, guys. Don't do this. Now, I would love a reply from someone to tell me that none of this is possible. And otherwise, I would encourage you to reach out to your legislators to share this word on social media, to share it at your church, to tell your family and friends that the supposed benefits of helping people that genuinely need help, that are disabled, are not worth creating the mass psychosis that exists out there, when maybe those people, they just need a helping hand. Don't take the bait. Don't let your kids, don't let your grandkids put headsets on that are connected to altered AI, artificial intelligence, alternate realities, because you're not going to know, because you'll lose faith. I mean, wouldn't that be the greatest deception of all? Maybe my next video will be fun.